The Galaxy Council chamber loomed above the cobalt seas of Navarra Prime, a colossal crystalline dome suspended by anti-gravity pylons that glowed like molten sapphire in the fading twilight. Its walls were faceted with living crystal, each facet humming with the collective consciousness of the Council's 100-plus member species. From the insectoid Dravix to the ethereal Lumari, from the burly Marith to the amphibious Volcarians, every delegate occupied a gilded dais that circled the central forum like planets in orbit. High Chancellor Lyda of the Aurelian Collective presided over this assembly. Her 4 slender arms, each tipped with opaline claws, hovered above the gavel, a bifurcated prism that split her silver robes into prisms of starlight. She let the chamber's ambient hum settle into a tense silence. Before her voice, deep and resonant, echoed through the hall. "Order," she intoned. "We convene on the matter of humanity's proposal for council reform. Ambassador Graves, you have the floor." All eyes turned to the human envoy. Ambassador Celine Graves stood at the lectern, her posture rigid, eyes aflame with purpose. She wore the formal cerulean uniform of Earth's starfaring directorate, its smooth lines contrasting sharply with the flared Baroque attire of her peers. Around her wrist glowed a hollow bracelet, Earth's final concession to this grand stage of politics. Technology, not tradition. Celine cleared her throat. The hush deepened. Even the Aurelian guards, normally vigilant and unreadable, leaned forward. "Esteemed members of the Galaxy Council," she began, her voice steady as a guided torpedo. "For centuries, humanity has honored this institution as a beacon of peace. We have invested time, resources, and lives to see its success. Yet despite our best efforts, and those of many others, the Council has grown complacent. Compromises have become blind capitulations. Vowed treaties have been violated with impunity, and too often the weak remain vulnerable to the strong." A ripple of murmurs spread. Elder Joru of the Dravix, his 6 emerald eyes blinking in unison, tapped his crystalline staff on the polished floor. "Ambassador," he rasped, "the Dravix have suffered as well. But is not this constant negotiation the essence of peace?" Selene turned her gaze on him, unwavering. "True peace is not the absence of conflict, but the presence of security. Your treaties protect your vested interests, yes. But what of frontier colonies where no Dravix garrison stands? What of trade convoys raided daily by pirates? What of worlds too insignificant to merit council intervention?" The Volcarian delegate, her skin a shifting aquamarine, raised a slender fin. "You propose we abandon the Council's mandate. But what then? Each species for itself. An endless spiral of retribution?" Celine permitted herself a tight nod. "Exactly. We propose a new path, strength tempered by accountability. Humanity will no longer endorse a council that cannot enforce its own decrees. Effective security measures will be funded. Fleets will patrol critical sectors, and violations will be met with decisive action, not rhetorical reprimands." A gust of outrage swept through the chamber. The Marith senator pounded the podium with a hoofed fist. "You threaten the very foundation of our unity. Let us recall the great quell of Tyrannies, when your people barely survived the Zandian purge. We stood by you. We shared our technology, our knowledge." "Precisely," Selena interjected, voice rising. "And yet when the Council condemned the Zandian raids, no force was dispatched. No joint command stood between their raiders and our colonies. Your words offered little comfort to the refugees we sheltered on Mars." She paused, allowing the weight of her accusation to settle like a meteor's shadow. Silence fell. The chamber's crystalline walls dimmed in response, as though the structure itself recoiled. High Chancellor Lyda exhaled, her eyes reflecting starlight. "Humanity, you present a stark indictment. What is your demand?" Selene pressed a palm to her chest, feeling the steady thrum of her heart. We demand withdrawal of our fleets and resources from Council control. We will establish independent security forces under the Earth Alliance's command. You may petition us for assistance, but we will answer only when our own judgment deems it necessary. Effective immediately, we rescind our vote in all Council matters. A stunned gasp rose. The Aurelian guards fanned out, weapons humming to life, an unseen signal triggering the chamber's security matrix. Holographic glyphs flickered around the dome's apex, calculating the consequences of a dissenting vote. Senator Keela of the Marith hissed through clenched teeth. You cannot do this unilaterally. The Charter forbids any member from withdrawing during active sessions. Celine lifted her chin. We accept that consequence. Policy without enforcement is nothing more than a hollow charter. If the Council cannot adapt, we will. Our people deserve protection. At that moment, the chamber's energy core, a lattice of light woven through the crystal walls, flickered violently. The hum intensified into a deafening drone. Security protocols, designed to maintain order through unanimous consent, began to fail. The outer shields dropped. Airlocks sealed automatically. Panic-ignited beams of amber light converged on Celine's dais. High Chancellor Lydos' gavel shattered, scattering prismatic shards. Elder Joru's staff slipped from his grasp as the crystal beneath him cracked. The delegates leapt to their feet, cries of outrage and fear echoing against the walls. "Lock down!" bellowed the Vocarian envoy, but her words were swallowed by the convulsing structure. The Council's mighty fortress had become a tomb. Celine's lieutenants, a small cadre of hardened diplomats turned officers, stripped concealed holsters from beneath their robes. Sidearms ignited with blue-white plasma. She shared a grim look with Commander Ryam Holly, whose face was set in iron determination. "The Council fails," Celine whispered. "Now, it's our turn." As the chamber's dome began to fracture, sending tendrils of light streaking across the sky, Ambassador Graves stepped down from the dais. With each firm footstep, the promise of a new era, whether of salvation or devastation, echoed through the halls. The grand experiment of interstellar diplomacy lay in ruin, and humanity, having rejected diplomacy, stood ready to seize its own destiny amid the chaos. The void between stars had never felt so cold. In the silent reaches of the Omega Expanse, human dreadnoughts cut through the darkness like hunting leviathans. Their hulls, bristling with battery turrets and kinetic railguns, gleamed with lethal intent. Behind them trailed the once proud colors of the Galaxy Council, now tarnished emblems on the banners of rebellion. War in the Outer Rim, on the battered bridge of the HM's Aegis. Admiral Kara Vance studied the tactical displays. Each flickering blip represented a devastated world or a shattered convoy. "Sector Theta 5 is lost," reported Lieutenant Orn, his voice a trembling whisper. "The Volcarian Peace Fleet refused our evacuation orders. They've been annihilated." Kara's jaw tightened. "Send word home. Mars Command must prepare for refugees." She turned to her XO, Commander Tariq Mohan. "Set course for Epsilon Theta. We've got hostages to rescue and a warlord to see." Below them, in the ruined corridors of New Meridian Station, Dravik's rebels had taken control. Their crystalline exoskeletons sparkled with stolen Council emitters. Terrified technicians cowered at the control panels, awaiting their fate. "Never thought diplomacy would end like this," murmured Tariq, checking his plasma carbine. "All those treaties gone in a heartbeat." Kara didn't reply. The galaxy was cracking, and every step she took left new fractures in its foundation. Fractured alliances and rogue coalitions as humanity's fleets carved their own path. Former Council members scrambled for security. The Marith Alliance forged a temporary pact with the Xandians' longtime adversaries, promising mutual defense in exchange for passage through contested hyperspace lanes. Meanwhile, the Lumari syndicate of traders withdrew to their crystalline freeports, sealing trade routes behind shimmering energy barriers. On Lorium V, the wormhole Nexus world, refugees packed into hastily erected camps. Ambassador Celine Graves arrived in a battered shuttle, stepping onto tiara-white sand stained by ash and tears. Elder Joru of the Draviks approached her, his multifaceted eyes reflecting sorrow. "You shattered the council, Ambassador. Now you stand witness to its ruin." Celine's shoulders sagged. "I know, every life lost weighs on me, but we must be honest. The council failed first." Joru's many eyes dimmed. "We will not survive this spiral unless we rebuild trust. Come, there is someone you must meet." 3. Citadel Station. Heart of the Maelstrom Citadel Station, once a symbol of interstellar unity, now orbited Vespera Ix like a wounded whale. Its docking bays were scarred, its corridors choked with detritus. Inside the central concourse, a makeshift war council assembled. Marith generals, Xandian admirals, Lumari traders, and Dravik scholars. Celine stepped onto the dais. Around her, faces from once allied races turned with wary respect. General Ressa of the Marith slammed her fist on the table. Humanity's betrayal forced us into this unholy alliance. Yet here we stand because none of us can face the pirates, the raiders, the mercenaries alone. A hush fell. Even the towering Xandian admiral, Kyle Thuris, lowered his cruel grin. "Our fleets are depleted. Our worlds bleed. We need a backbone, something the old council never provided." Celine inhaled, the weight of leadership pinching her chest. "We can form a provisional security coalition. Each member contributes ships and ground forces under a joint command. Decisions by majority vote, with Earth holding a veto only for existential threats." Murmurs of assent and dissent rippled. The Lumari trader, Cirrus Vaughn, hissed, "And what of profit? We will not fuel this war at our expense." Celine fixed him with steel blue eyes. "Trade corridors will reopen, but only under coalition protection. Raiders will find no safe haven to demand tolls. And yes, members will share costs proportionally to their GDP." Cirrus's mandibles clicked. After a tense beat, he inclined his head. "Agreed, so long as our free ports remain sovereign." The War Council erupted in negotiation once more, but the dark specter of unity, however imperfect, hovered above them like a fragile star. 4. The hostage. Gambit word came swiftly. Dravik's insurgents had seized Epsilon Theta Station and taken every human engineer and civilian aboard hostage. Their demand, Celine herself, delivered unarmed. In exchange for the prisoners, Celine's stoic face showed none of the tumult in her chest. She nodded to Commander Ryan Hawley. "Prepare the Shiv 3 shuttle. I'll go down." Razor-dark engines screamed as they entered the station's atmosphere. Through blurring shrapnel and swirls of smoke, Epsilon Theta's spires stood broken an artificial city in orbit, now turned fortress. Inside the commandeered council chamber, a circle of Dravik's warriors bore crystalline rifles. At their center, human captives knelt with collars that glowed red. Warlord Zerun reclined on a fractured dais, his emerald eyes glittering beneath a fractured visor. Celine stepped forward, hands raised. "Zerun, I'm here." The warlord's many eyes traced her form. "Welcome, Ambassador. You stand where once the council met. Funny how fate hurls us into the same room." Celine's voice was calm, but her pulse thundered. "Release them, and we can discuss ending this war." Zoran's claws tapped the dais. "You shattered the council to protect your people. I'll give you that. But now the galaxy falls into chaos. We need more than force. We need hope." Seleni's breath caught. Hope? He rose, his crystalline carapace refracting the station's dying lights. Yes, Hope. I will free your people if you pledge to lead this coalition, not as conquerors, but as guardians. Are you willing to bear that responsibility? A hush descended. Below them, the hostages watched with weary, hopeful eyes. Selene looked at each of the kneeling engineers, imagining the relief on their families' faces. She glanced at Zaroon, whose jagged smile held equal parts challenge and promise. Finally, she nodded. I swear it, on Earth's honor and on my own. With a resonant chime, the red collars dissolved. The hostages stumbled to their feet, tears shining. Zaroon inclined his head, a gesture of respect rare among the Dratics, a fragile dawn as. The freed hostages evacuated in rescue shuttles. Selene and Zaroon remained alone amid the ruin of the council chamber. The station's emergency lights flickered, casting fractured shadows across the crystalline walls. Zoran's multifaceted eyes softened. This council may have fallen, but a new one may yet rise. Selene placed her hand on his arm. It will if we hold true to what was once lost. Empathy, accountability, and courage. Behind them, the stars glimmered like watchful eyes. The war was far from over, and the spiral of disintegration still churned across the galaxy. Yet in that broken hall, the first stones of a new order were laid. Humanity had rejected diplomacy and nearly destroyed the dream of unity. Now, with enemies turned uneasy allies, they faced the ultimate test, forging peace from the ashes of chaos. And so, with steel resolve and wounded hope, they set the course for a fragile dawn.